views as well as all party part. Now, Daniel, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you. So welcome to the logistic and transport session, and we're very honored to co-host with the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport Hong Kong. And then we are very lucky that we're able to cover the topics from the sea to the land and to the air. So for the participants, we will cover the all aspect in logistics and transportation, that how we achieve net zero carbon emission in Hong Kong. So first of all, I would like to welcome the Vice President of the CILT institution, Engineer Dr. Kelvin Leung. He's the CEO of DHL Global Forwarding Asia Pacific, and he will give us a welcome. Engineer Dr. Kelvin Leung, please. You mute. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel, for the introduction. Can we put on the slides, please?
Technical team is working on it. There you go.
Okay. Well, firstly, thank you very much, the HKIE inviting CILT to co-run these sessions. I was listening to the keynote speeches as well as the last two sessions. I mean, all these are totally relevant for the discussion for the last sessions. You can all imagine that in our logistics and transportation industry, the fuel, the energies, as well as the carbon neutral buildings are all the major causes of our carbon emissions. So all the valuable comments and suggestions we touched on in the last two sessions were very relevant and very interesting. Can we put up to the next slide, please? Yeah, the next one, please. Thank you. So a lot of people probably ask how relevant is the transport and logistics industry. I can share the figure here. 14% by one count is the global emissions from our industry alone. So it is absolutely relevant. And on that, 21% coming from road, roughly about 11 to 14% from air, and then another 14% from the sea. So what we encounter here in Hong Kong, you can imagine that will be very similar to what we're emitting. I would guess in the case of Hong Kong, because we don't have the manufacturing segment, so that means the relative percentage of our share of emission for the industry may be even higher. Now, the good news is that in the case of Hong Kong, our CO2 emission per capita is actually relatively lower. And I think it's partly driven by the fact that we don't have manufacturing here. So you can compare some of the advanced economy like the US or even the developing markets like the mainland, the Hong Kong emissions is on the relatively low side. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that it's glad to see the Hong Kong government had made the commitment to go carbon neutral by 2050. However, some of the keynote speakers as well as the panelists mentioned too, is that the percentage of our renewable energy capacity in Hong Kong as of today is on the low side. I think by one count about 0.8%, by another around 1%, which if you can see, as also with the roadmap here that the governments and some of the public utilities are working on around 7.5 to 10% by 2035 and then 15% by 2050. Those milestone will not, I'm afraid, will not bring us to carbon neutral by 2050. can we have the next slide, please? Right. So to set the scene, I think going forward, and that's also relevant for our discussion later on for the panel. I think some food of thoughts for the private sectors. I think first and foremost, I want to bring across the message that carbon offsetting is not the solution, because in the end, you still emit the gases before you offset it, and second, if you do a simple calculations, the way we emit the carbon gases, how many trees and how many ways you have to plant before we can neutralize the emissions. Now, one of the speakers, I think in the previous session, mentioned about the carbon or greenhouse gas capturing. I think that's possibly another option. However, based on the current development of that particular technology, it's probably take another decade, if not two, at least, to mature. So that means that, yes, we can certainly count on the option of capturing, but I think the most viable option for us to really bring ourselves to carbon neutral by 2050 is really insetting. Then I think the other message is about green fields versus blue fields. Many people talk about using sustainable fuels, electric vehicles, and so on and so forth. Those are only truly green fields if the production of them itself is also green. Otherwise, it's only blue fields. So it's not 100% carbon neutral. So that's another important aspect of it. Third is about the sustainable fuels that we use, because Hong Kong is a major aviation hub, as well as a major maritime hub. Now, the issue here is we don't even have a sustainable fuel sources or supplies, so that if any aircraft or any ships that are operating in and out of Hong Kong, they do not have the supply and the support infrastructure to fuel and supply the vessels and the aircraft to run on sustainable fuels. So that is a major thing that we have to consider. Next, of course, electric vehicles. That's really one of the major carbon emission source in Hong Kong. Now, I want to touch on also inside the warehouses. Let's not forget about electric forklifts. And you can be quite surprised, even today in many of the warehouses, petrol and gas forklifts are being run still as of today. In the last session, I think the speakers also touched on green buildings. And I would also suggest that we also cover the green warehouses, which is also a major driver of our greenhouse emissions. Now, I think what matters most is for any green buildings to be functioning, we have to start now, because as one of the speakers mentioned, probably most of the buildings today will still exist beyond 2050. And so if we don't start ensuring the buildings that are building now are really becoming the part of the neutral, carbon neutral criteria, then we will never live up to the timeline of 2050. Then coming lastly to the public sectors, I think the policies are key. I mentioned all the aspects, and if we drive the policy right, I think we stand a much better chance to go 2050. I think in the first session, we talk about LNG, and I think the speaker also mentioned very correctly LNG is only lower carbon emission. It is not carbon neutral. So even if we turn tomorrow by 100% carbon usage of LNG instead of carbon, we will still not be able to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. And then I think last session, one of the speakers also mentioned about education and promotion, and that's really the key. Infrastructure to store, to really facilitate the supplies of sustainable fuels, and so forth. So I rest the context here. It's a lot for us to do. I know many of these topics are being progressed as we speak, but still a lot of work for all of us to carry on. Back to you, Daniel.
Thank you, Engineer Dr. Leung. So we understand that Hong Kong is an important area for aviation and marine hub. So without further delay, I would like to take us into our aviation hub first. Let me welcome Mr. Peter Lee, General Manager Sustainability of the Airport Authority Hong Kong. He's leading and managing all the environmental matters related to the planning and implementation of the expansion of the Hong Kong International Airport into the third runway system. So Mr. Lee has over 20 years of experience in environmental and engineering consultancy and EIA studies with a number of major infrastructures and urban development projects. And Mr. Lee is also a founding fellow of the Hong Kong Institute of Qualified Environmental Professionals and the Secretary General of the Marine Ecology Enhancement Fund and the Fisheries Enhancement Fund. Let me welcome Mr. Lee. The speaker is yours.
Thank you, Daniel, and also thank you, Kelvin, for setting the scene. Can I have the slide? So next slide, please. So I will want to take a few minutes to go through the carbon management efforts in the past and also in the future in terms of reducing carbon from the Hong Kong International Airports. Apart from airport authorities, the airport operation also involves different business partners, including companies like aircraft maintenance, catering providers, air cargo handlings, etc. And in terms of carbon emissions on the ground, actually the airport authority contributes around 40%, and our business partner more than 60%. So you can see it is very important to join hands with our business partner to reduce the overall carbon emission from airport operation. So in 2008, the airport authority established the HKIE carbon reduction program, and to provide a platform for the airport community to collaboratively reduce the carbon emissions. In the past decades, we have 2 5-year carbon reduction pledges with our business partners, with the first one covering 2010 to 2015, and then the second one from covering 2015 to 2020. Next slide, please. Sorry, next slide. Yeah. So in the last couple of years, we see actually the governments and the aviation industry are also setting a clear timeline for going net zero. So in September 2020, the China government announced the targets to go for carbon neutrality before 2060 and also peak at 2030. And in November 2020, the Hong Kong government also announced the carbon neutrality target before 2050. And for the aviation industry, in June last year, the Airport Council Internationals has also set the long-term net zero goals for the airports by 2050. And the airport authority is actually one of the study sponsors of that target. So next slide, please. So around the end of last year, the airport authority also set the new Hong Kong International Airport long-term carbon pledge, going for net zero carbon emissions by 2050, and also with a midpoint target of having 55% absolute carbon reductions by 2035 compared with the 2018 baseline. So next slide. So in this new pledge, the airport authorities join hands with 29 business partners And altogether, the carbon emissions from AA and the 29 business partners equal to about 90% of the total carbon emissions of the Hong Kong international airports on the ground. So next slide, please. And to drive these ambitious targets, we have actually identified a number of key initiatives to reduce both direct emission, meaning those emission directly emitted from the airport, and also those indirect emission, meaning those are related to our energy consumptions. To reduce direct emission, we will further our electrification program, both for the vehicles and for the ground surface equipment, and we explore the use of renewable diesel. And I understand the previous section speakers also mentioned about biodiesel, but the renewable diesel that we are looking at is actually the second generation of a biodiesel, which depends on the feedstock that can reduce the life cycle carbon emission by up to 90%. But unfortunately, this renewable diesel is now not yet available in Hong Kong. That have been used in the States and also in Europe. And I think we need to find ways to get it here to help us to reduce carbon as well. And also, we also looking at the use of a no global warming potential refrigerants for the use by the chiller system. In terms of indirect emissions, we have solar panel installed in the midfield concourse of our airports, and we're going to install more for the upcoming new major buildings for under the free runway system. And as well, we will continue with our energy efficiency measures. And I think, as mentioned by Kelvin just now, actually, I think even if we go for have a good energy efficiency, it's also important that we have green power grid available. So I think it's also important for the power company in Hong Kong to decarbonize their grid as well. So next slide, please. So to support and encourage our business partner to achieve the target, we have set up a business partner carbon support program with a number of key elements covering capacity building, wind fund, technology working group, and also sustainable aviation fuel that Kelvin had mentioned. So the capacity building program, actually, we have collaborated working with the Business Environment Council to run a 3-year program for our business partner with 15 free events to provide training and workshop to help our business partner to develop their carbon management skills. And in terms of the green fund, we will be injecting initially 20 million Hong Kong dollar to support our business partner to pilot new technologies at the airport environment to reduce carbon emissions. And on technical working group, we will work with relevant business partner, sharing experience and knowledge in terms of new technology covering renewable diesel, solar panel, energy efficiency measure, etc. On the sustainable aviation fuel programs, actually, I'm happy to say that actually AA have been, is now one of the launch partner of the Cathay Pacific Corporate SAF program, aiming to support and encourage the use of SAF in Hong Kong International Airport. And in fact, the fueling facilities at the Hong Kong International Airport is ready to support all the airlines to receive the SAF here. And with the SAF, actually, it can reduce the life cycle carbon emissions by up to 80 to 90%, depending on the feedstock. So next slide, please. So I would also like to share with you some carbon reduction initiatives that we have done and are planning to do. In terms of electrification of SI vehicle, and actually starting at 2018, we have already all our SI saloon type vehicle being electrified. And we will going to electrify all our remaining SI pirate car by the end of this year. And also, to going forward, all the SI vans, minibus, and buses will also be electrified commencing from 2024. And the number of electric vehicles at the airport will increase from the existing about 720 to more than 3,300 by the end of this decade. So up to now, we have approximately around 600 electric charging stations at the open areas. So next slide, please. So apart from our vehicles, there is also a number of ground support equipment operations in the open areas. So that including, say, baggage tracker, conveyor belt loaders, passenger steps, etc., which support the operation of airports. And we are the first airports in the world to launch what we call the GSE pooling scheme, which helped to accelerate the electrification of GSE to replace those existing diesel-powered GSE. And we will also help to reduce traffic at the urban area to drive down the direct carbon emissions. So currently, we have 270 electric GSE in the pooling scheme, and we will plan to increase it to around 600 by the end of this year, and which will be equal to around 70% of all the essential GSE in the urban area. So next slide. And last but not least, of course, electricity consumption contributes more than 80% of our total carbon emissions from the airport. So we are also continuously improving our energy efficiency by different technology means. For example, we are replacing lighting with LED for both internal lighting and also one-way lighting, and also go for district cooling arrangement, adoption of high energy efficiency chiller, and also the use of big data analysis with weather and flight data to optimize our chiller operations. So these are just a few examples. If anyone is interested, I'm also happy to share any other experience and knowledge in the Q&A section. So that's the end of my section. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. So from the airport now, I would like to take us to the ground level, maybe perhaps underground, to welcome Ms. Jessica Chen, Head of Sustainability, MTR Corporation Limited. Ms. Jessica Chen is responsible for developing overall sustainability strategies and driving sustainability initiative for MTR. So she has also over 20 years of experience in environmental and corporate sustainability with diverse expertise in sustainability strategies and policies. So let's welcome Ms. Jessica Chen to let us know more about from the MTR.
Thank you, Daniel. First of all, I would like to thank the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport and Hong Kong IE for inviting me to join the panel sections today. And today I'd like to share with you about MTR's strategies on decarbonizations. And next slide, please. MTR operates a low carbon mass transit system in Hong Kong. So in response to climate change, we have developed our climate change strategies in 2020, specifying our 3-pronged approach to address climate change. First of all, we will continue to operate, build, and expand our low carbon railway system to serve as the backbone of Hong Kong low carbon public transport network. And we will also continue to reduce our energy consumption and improve energy efficiency throughout our operations, and explore suitable opportunities to use renewable energies and adopt low carbon design in our new developments. And the third approach is we will continue to enhance our resilience to climate change by consistently reviewing and updating our design manual and implement suitable adaptive measures to minimize the impacts of extreme weather events on our assets. Next slide, please. In July 2020, the MTR board endorsed our new corporate strategies. And under these new strategies, we have set forth 3 priority areas to advance our environmental and social objectives. And reducing greenhouse gas emissions is one of them. And during our recent result announcements in mid-March, our CEO has announced that we will setting science-based targets for our railway and property business in Hong Kong for 2030, covering scope 1, 2, and 3 carbon emissions, and with the longer-term goals of achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. In fact, we have already conducted a study to identify potential carbon reduction initiatives that we can adopt in our operation to achieve our carbon reduction targets. And since our purchased energy is the largest contributor to our carbon emissions, we will focus our efforts on reducing carbon energy consumption and enhancing energy efficiency across our operations. For example, we are currently conducting a large-scale chiller replacement project, replacing over 150 chillers at our station and depots. And we are also exploring measures to lower our carbon emissions of our feeder bus fleets. And we are planning to purchase one double-deck EV bus for trial this year. We also plan to replace about half of our company vehicles to electric vehicles in the next 5 years. Regarding renewable energies, we have already installed solar PV panels in 2 of our office buildings. We also installed solar panels on one of our new generation light wheel vehicles to provide electricity for the in-compartment lighting system. We will review the effectiveness of this trial and consider possible expansion of this initiative in our light wheel network. We also plan to install more renewable energy system in suitable station and depots. And our target is to increase our generating capacity of renewable energy to 1 million kilowatt hours by end of next year. And apart from our operation, we also target to decarbonize our value chain by further exploring the use of low carbon construction materials and also working with our overseas hubs to reduce their carbon emissions. Next slide, please. During the design, planning, and constructions of our new lines, we also integrate environmentally conscious features into our projects and the surrounding areas as far as practicable. For example, our hinging stations resembles MTL's future green station model. The design of hinging station features natural materials such as wood to blend with the surrounding environment. The semi-enclosed station design with openings on the roof enables optimal lateral lighting and cross ventilation. Shading made from environmentally friendly materials is installed on the exterior wall of the station to shield passengers from sunlight and reduce the indoor temperature. We also have a green roof of about 5,000 meters square installed in the station and its associated structures. And we are also piloting some different solar PV system in the hinging station. And all these green features have made hinging station a low carbon station and became the first railway station in Asia to achieve BREEAM certification, achieving a very good rating under the BREEAM in use category. Well, it is our long-term commitment to achieve BREEAM+ goals accreditation or above for all our future new station and our new residential development projects. Next slide, please. Apart from our own operation, we also take an active role in engaging the public to reduce carbon emissions. For instance, we launched a carbon footprint challenge to encourage MTL mobile registered users to achieve saving on carbon emissions by taking MTL rides and earn MTL points as a reward. The program helped save over 61,000 tons of carbon emissions in about 1 year time. We have also launched a carbon wallet apps in March last year to encourage publics to adopt a low carbon lifestyle. Through practicing carbon conscious behavior, users can earn points based on the carbon emissions saved and redeem some green products and services from our business partner. And so far, we have submitted more than, the user have submitted more than 40,000 recycling records in total and helped save around 30,000 kilograms CO2 equivalents emissions. Next slide, please. Green finance is also a very important tool to support our decarbonization initiative. And we established our green bond framework and issued our first batch of green bonds in 2016 to support our environmentally friendly services and network enhancement projects, primarily in relation to mitigating climate change. Building upon our green bond framework, we established a green finance framework in 2018 and subsequently a sustainable finance framework in 2020 to cover a wide range of financing transactions. And since 2016, we have raised over 30 billion through sustainable finance arrangements. And last year, we arranged about 4.8 billion of green finance to fund relevant projects to conserve energy and enhance and expand our low carbon railway services. And I hope this provides you with an overview of MTL's decarbonization plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tan. I see that other than going on EV and having a solar roof, we also like to integrate with our daily lives on finance and also the wallet that we can use to reduce the carbon emission. Lastly, I would like to take us into the sea to more discussing on how we can reduce the carbon emission from the sea level. Let me welcome Mr. Eric Wong, Director and CEO of the Marina Container Lines Hong Kong Limited. Mr. Eric Wong is a logistic professional. His expertise is in strategic business development, process re-engineering, and human resource management in industry management. And Mr. Wong is a regular contributor to the positions papers of the CILT Hong Kong and also to the government on the issue pertinent to the well-being of Hong Kong's logistic industry. Moreover, he often participates at industry forums to share his knowledge, like today, and experience with the local logistic practitioners on the challenges to Hong Kong's logistics practitioners and issues relating to smart mobility, Belt and Road, and Greater Bay Area. Currently, Mr. Wong is a council member of CILT Hong Kong, a board member of the Logistic and Supply Chain Multi-Tech R&D Center. Mr. Eric Wong, the sea is yours. You need to unmute. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yes, good. Thank you. Actually, today I would like to look at the topic here from the angle of small, medium-sized operators. SME, I call them, small to medium-sized enterprises, refer to non-subsidized independent firms employing less than 50 people in the context of Hong Kong. Characteristically, the SMEs lack the resource of the big boys, i.e. the people like DHL and all that, to be in the driving seat on the green adoption superhighway. Nevertheless, I will argue that we can still contribute individually to the green cause to make a difference with regard to the imperatives of avoid, of shifting, of improving. To avoid, I mean to avoid using inefficient routing, avoid using environmentally unfriendly packaging and pelletization materials, avoid wasteful use of paper. And then for shifting, I mean shifting from paper-based to digital documentation, and to improve means improve from using petrol to biodiesel to electric or hydrogen, and then to wind, water, or solar energies. So without further ado, I will first look at the opportunities. Now, after all, going green in logistics and transportation has its inherent benefits to the SME business owners, which I would like to highlight as follows. Firstly, ESG is quickly becoming a condition of business for the logistic and transport industry. Practitioners who are capable of meeting the standards will have a competitive advantage over the also runs. Specifically, we as SMEs need to also bid for contracts, logistic contracts, and increasingly we are experiencing a stipulation in the submission that we need to be qualified. We need to have green measures in our own way. So I can see that without such expertise going forward, we will be at a comparative disadvantage. Secondly, there will definitely be cost savings by going green. In a workplace, we are using green energies, and also by adopting the wellness program for employees. For example, Simple things like keeping the room temperature at 25 degrees Celsius, using eco-friendly packaging materials like biodegradable packaging peanuts, implementing a health and safety policy in office to improve staff's awareness will all pay dividends to the business. And thirdly, there is the social economic wellness of Hong Kong, which even as SMEs, we can contribute as responsible corporate citizens. So let's not underestimate the opportunities available even to the SMEs. Next slide, please. Next one, yes, challenges. While recognizing the opportunities available to us, we cannot underestimate the challenges in response of commitment and compliance. Mr. Kelvin Leung earlier mentioned in his slides that commitments from all and act now. Now, SME are just as committed as the big boys. And then Mr. Kelvin also mentioned in his slide the perspective of private sectors. Well, I would like to share the following in that connection too. For starters, there is the mindset for embracing green logistic practices on an organization level, from top management to frontline workers. Then there is the practical challenge of know-how and skill set for assessing, implementing, and maintaining the 3 Rs. By 3 Rs, of course, I mean reuse, recycle, and reduce. Now, for us in the SME sector, we hear a lot about going green, going this, going that, but the details, how to go about it, what kind of training is necessary, we are at really an infant stage. That is a big knowledge and skill set gap we have to bridge going forward. Then last and not least is the investment cost. The investment in adopting green practices, they have financial implications. The expenses will be relating to using electric instead of diesel forklift, using electric vehicles instead of internal combustion engine vehicles by 2030, adopting to eco-driving and motorway speed limits of 100 kilometers per hour by 2030, using environmentally friendly packaging materials, adopting technical innovations and new designs for packaging and palletization, having system capability to connect to IT platforms, attaining ESG accreditation of ISO 14064, and pursuing a staff health and safety policy under ISO 14001 and 45001. Now, all these are comparative requisites that we need to improve our compatibility as well as contributing to the green cause. So these are the challenges we have to embrace. Next slide, please. May I have the next slide? Then to succeed in our endeavors, we need to have the following. One is leadership. Now we need organization buy-in with commitment from the top to the bottom. Without that, we cannot go. We cannot even start. Secondly, we need the government support. Government support because of on the financial side, we look to the government for financial subsidies for the green adoption, maybe via tax exemptions for procurement of hardware and software, for organizing of and participation in training programs, as well as giving awards to high achievers in green adoption. We need to recognize, we need to applaud in whatever small way we make our contribution towards the green goal. Third, knowledge and experience sharing, and that is the most important. We need to keep abreast of the progress of decarbonization globally, regionally, and locally. The breakthroughs in technological innovations for green energy, smart mobility, all that we need to be kept abreast. Then the green assessment standards and avenues and channels for adoption, because we need a lot of guidance as to how to go about it. And then we need to have the venues and forums for learning and sharing. And we need to have a lot of help. And I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. it's nice to know from the SME perspective that it also takes a lot of different resources and policies with different bodies to contribute into this low carbon development. So now I would like to take us into a discussion Q&A session. So the participant, if you have the question or anything that would like us to discuss, you may type in the Q&A box. I see now we have a few. So let's start with the discussion. So first, I would like to ask Peter that we have one question from the floor, that will the task force be set up under technology working group? And then is there any technology that provider that you intend to invite? Peter?
Right, yeah, for the technology working group, actually, we are in mind of having small groups for different technologies for those relevant business partner involved. And I think we are also keen to also inviting relevant stakeholders, whether it's consultants or contractors or other companies that have a similar experience with that kind of technology, to join the group to share the experience and difficulties, etc. So this is what's in mind. We want to kickstart that process probably next later half of this year. Yeah.
Also, is there any target percentage of electric GSE in a polling scheme that you plan to reach?
I think the ultimate target is 100%. But I think the reality is some of the GSE, they are quite heavy duty. Currently, there may be only diesel models available in the market, or there may be only one single electric model, which limit our choices. So I think that the idea is basically whenever there is electric models available in the market suitable for us, then we will convert it. Replace it with the diesel model. Yeah.
Okay, so I think in this aspect, I would like to also talk about how an environmental engineer can contribute to support logistics and transportation industry to achieve net zero transportation. Maybe I can invite Shirley to kind of talk about it. We cannot hear you.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, I think I just jump into this panel discussion. Thank you very much. I think according to EMSD, we all know that the transport is the second largest energy end user in Hong Kong, next to buildings, the last section, right? So green transport play a very important role in our net zero transition, especially here in Hong Kong and in the majority metropolitan cities as well. So when engineer solutions such as electrification of fleet, fuel efficiency improvement, smart mobility management, as well as energy management of logistic warehouse, so on and so forth. I think all the distinguished speakers have covered even more than I can say. So I'm not from the sector, but that is also the reason why we have this tremendous grateful gratitude to all the speakers here, CILTHK, HKIE, to co-host this section with us, to combine actually both expertise, not only from the engineer solution from our side, environmental engineers, also from the sector, from transport, from logistics, from transport, even actually infrastructure as well, and to drive as overall both professional to drive the right direction in this solution. So I can say it's not how we support, but how we collaborate in this way. So that's just my thinking. So I think Kelvin raised a hand, so maybe Kelvin can write on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. I can certainly chip in from the perspective of the industrial operators. For sure, any solution to help us quick charging for forklift, electric forklifts or electric trucks or electric vehicles, that will certainly improve the cost efficiency of operating a EV fleet. Because today, practically, we run certain electric vehicles or electric forklifts. However, because the duration to fully charge those vehicles and forklifts, that means that in terms of ratio of how many units we have to purchase per floor space or per delivery, it's actually much higher than the normal biofuel or fossil fuel vehicles today. Yeah. So if there be any more advanced charging mechanism that can help speed charge, that would significantly increase the attractiveness of deploying electric vehicles and electric forklifts.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Engineer Dr. Leung. So I think it's the end of our session.